everyone!
Hello, 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 where you been all my life?
My name is Syabrina Reva Luthfiyyah and I want to submit my final exam about reading aloud, and the title of I read a book is Cinderella. So, check it out! Once upon a time, when there were still fairy godmothers, there was a girl called Cinderella. She lived with her father and his new wife and her two new stepsisters. The stepmother did not like Cinderella very much, mostly because she was so much nicer than her own two daughters. Cinderella was also much prettier, but the stepsisters were ugly. Cinderella had to do all the work in the house as the ugly sisters were also very lazy. They spent all the father's money on new clothes and endless pairs of shoes. And then when all of the parties leaving poor Cinderella with piles of stocking to mend. One day, a very grand invitation arrived. The prince was looking for a wife and had decided to give a ball in 3 days' time for all the young ladies in the land. The ugly sisters could talk about nothing else. They bought lots of new dresses and many pairs of matching shoes and then spent every hour trying them all on. They made Cinderella curl their hair and iron their ribbons and powder their nose. Cinderella was so exhausted running around after them that she had no time to look into her own wardrobe to choose what she should wear. In a wave of perfume, the ugly sister swept out of the door into the cottage without as much as a thank you to Cinderella. She closed the door sadly and went to sit by the fire in the kitchen. "I wish I could have gone to the ball too," she sighed. There was a sudden swirl of silver stars, and there in the front of Cinderella stood an old lady with a twinkle in her eye and a wand in her hand. "You shall go to the ball, my dear Cinderella. I'm your very godmother," she said, smiling at Cinderella. "Now we must be quick. There is much to do. Please bring me a large pumpkin from the vegetable patch. Oh, and 6 meats from the barn, and you will find 4 lizards by the water pot." Cinderella did as she was bid. With a wave of the wand, the pumpkin was thrown into the glittering golden couch, and the meats into 6 pure white hearts. The lizards became elegant women dressed in the green velvet. "Now you, my dear," said the fairy godmother, turning to Cinderella. A wave of the wand and Cinderella's old apron disappeared, and there she stood in a white dress, glittering with golden stars. Her hair was piled on the top of her head, and it too was sprinkled with stars. On her feet were tiny glass slippers with a diamond in the heels. "Enjoy yourself, my dear," said the fairy godmother. "But you must leave before midnight, for then my magic ends and you will be back in your old apron with some mice and lizard in your feet." When Cinderella arrived at the ball, everyone tried to look at this unknown beauty who had arrived so unexpectedly. The prince hurried over to ask her to dance and then would not dance with anyone else all evening. The ugly sisters were beside themselves with rage, which of course made them look even uglier. Cinderella was enjoying herself so much that she forgot the fairy godmother's warning, so she had a terrible fright when the clock began to strike midnight. She turned from the prince with a cry and ran down the stairs of the palace into her carriage, and disappeared as suddenly as she had arrived. One of the teeny glass slippers with the diamond sparkling in the heels had slipped from her foot as she ran. The prince picked it up and turning to the crowd ballroom declared, "I shall marry the girl whose foot fits this slipper." Cinderella, meanwhile, had just managed to reach her garden gate when all her vanity disappeared, and by the time the ugly sisters arrived home, but in a towering rage, she was sitting quietly by the fire. The next morning, the prince went from house to house looking for the mystery girl whose foot would fit the teeny glass slipper. But no one had fit the small. He reached Cinderella's house, where first one ugly sister and then the next tried to squeeze their hug feet into the slipper. "Please, let me try," said a quiet voice from the corner, and Cinderella stepped forward. The sisters just laughed in the scorn, but they soon stopped when they saw that the teeny slipper fit Cinderella perfectly. There was a sudden swirl of silver stars, and there in the front of Cinderella stood her fairy godmother with a twinkle in her eye and a wand in her hand. In an instant, Cinderella was clad in a gorgeous dress of cornflower blue silk decorated with pearls. On her feet, she wore tiny white boots with blue tassels. The prince went Cinderella off to the palace to meet the king and queen, and the wedding took place the very next day. Cinderella forgave the two ugly sisters. She was the sort of girl. But the prince insists the sisters spend one day a week working in the palace kitchen just to remind them how horrid they had been to Cinderella.